I'd like to introduce you to Louis Dodson.
Dodson! Dodson! We've got Dodson here! See, nobody cares.
Well, it's official. They're tying it in with Dominion. For those of you who've not watched Jurassic World Dominion, you're probably going to want to bow out because, I mean, it's not like there's spoilers necessarily for the movie, but this could ruin it for you. Or maybe not. It depends on what your idea of spoiling things is. But anyway, Dodson shows up and he is introduced as the head of research at Biosyn. Of course, he's going to do business with Khan and he just completely ignores Kenji. Kenji controls Toro and shows Dodson what he can do. His whole thing is that he wants to prove to the world that dinosaurs are not the bad investment. Yeah, I guess not. Couldn't tell that that's what he was really interested in, since, you know, the entire freaking Dominion film was about locusts. But anyway. So the Khans, Kenji and his dad are now responsible for getting a whole bunch of other dinosaurs to use the chips on. And unfortunately, and fortunately, he runs into Bumpy. And at first, when I see her, I'm like, oh my god, Bumpy! And then that foreboding thing sets over because I know they're gonna try and use her for the chips. Khan is embarrassed because Kenji won't move and he asks his dad, please, not this one. She belongs to Ben. Plus, she has asymmetrical horns. Why would you want a dinosaur with asymmetrical horns? Meanwhile, I'm thinking, what's the problem with that? A dinosaur is a dinosaur whether it has asymmetrical horns or not. And she is a very beautiful specimen that's already tame. Of course, I'm talking at the business side of things. I actually wouldn't want to do that because Bumpy is a friend and she's so innocent and it's not her fault that any of this is happening. Khan obliges, surprisingly. Khan tells Dodson, look, we'll get you a less wonky one. And you know, a part of you is still wondering, man, I hope that Kenji and his father get along. Maybe he really does love Kenji, but then the more that time goes on, even us as the audience is starting to see that that's not really the case.
Don't ever embarrass me like that again.
Poor Kenji. Even May can see that something is wrong. Like, look at Kenji's face. Okay, you can't you can't really see it from this. Way too pixelated, but look at what his face would have been, or sort of. I feel so bad for him. And like his entire thing, he's not thinking, oh, my dad's evil. He's just thinking, okay, I need to grow up and not disappoint him. Brooklyn and the others are trying to delete the files for the chips in the blueprints, and she ends up changing the password. I do like that Dodson refers to the other raptors from the Jurassic World movie because he straight up asked them, like when they're trying to look for a velociraptor that's one of the dinosaurs on his list that he wants, he's like, is there only one raptor on the island or something? And he does refer to Owen Grady.
So she knows where to hide and where to hunt.
What, is there only one raptor on the island or something? What about the ones Grady was working with?
Raptors are pack animals. If there were more, she wouldn't be alone.
Blue does make a momentarily appearance, but in this season, we barely see her. So if you still haven't watched this and you're wondering, oh, I can just watch it and see more of the Velociraptor, you're barely going to get to see Blue the Velociraptor. You will see a lot of Velociraptor action, but not from Blue. Anyways, as Brooklyn changes the password, she also shuts down the Brads. And then they try to answer the age-old question that we got from that weird movie, which is, how is it that Dodson had the can that got buried under the piles of mud that rolled down a freaking waterfall and got buried under piles of water and sediment and mud? Just like, what were the chances? Also, this was right by a big rocky outcropping or a cliff, not a cliff, but like a waterfall area. And how convenient. He's like, oh my god, it was under the sand the whole time I found it. Oh, look at this. Oh, and it still has the working things. He says he could have really used this 25 years ago. And just like clockwork, or to like mock him or something, a dilophosaurus jumps out. And I honestly did not like the models for Dominion, but the models for the dilophosaurus in the Camp Cretaceous show actually looks much better. It just looks like a beefier version than the one that we got in Jurassic Park 1. Doing a little ham and fist here with him getting a running with the Dilophosaurus. Well, that's exactly what happens in the movies. It's like, see, Nedry got killed by the Dilophosaurus, so he should get killed by Dilophosaurus too. Every time he runs into a dinosaur and he's near death, it happens to be a Velociraptor because it has to be a Dilophosaurus. It's really cool, however, to see Khan step into gear and protect Steve Jobs. I mean, sorry, frick is his name? Dodson, because he hasn't done this for anybody else, not even for his son. I mean, he kind of did it for Kenji, but not like this, where he put himself directly in the line of battle when it comes to a dinosaur. So that's very interesting. He was willing to do that for Dodson, because I'm guessing Dodson has all the money that he needs, so he can't very well let him get eaten, can he? Han turns everything around his son, blaming him for leading them into a dilophosaurus nest, saying that I thought you knew the island and blah blah blah. You said you knew it like the back of your hand. And then he basically makes Kenji feel bad by saying you're still a kid after all. Like, really? Yeah, of course, he's still a kid. What do you expect? But the way he's like, it's not your fault, you're just a child. That's the manipulative shit that parents who are narcissists do. Han, Dodson, and Hawks managed to get a baryonyx and the Dymo just in time to please old Dodson. Han says that it'd take 3 weeks for him to get those chips ready. A Hispanic lady here, who apparently has a very nice smell to compies, because they're always after her, I have no idea why, decides to steal Dodgson's bag. What he has in that bag, we don't know at this point, but it's clearly something important, and she clearly doesn't work for him or is on his side. She's working for somebody else outside. Kenji feels awful, but despite everything with his dad, he still cares about his dad and sees the girl stealing the bag. He alerts the others and catches her. She runs off and gets killed by compies. And I love that they do this here, because before, I mean, I always wondered, like with the Lost World Jurassic Park, you know, why did the compies do that? Why was, what's his face, Peter acting so freaking weird? And I had read the Michael Crichton books, and I'm like, it has to be that. I remember I was, I think, one of the only persons on YouTube that did a video on that explaining that scene. And then a whole bunch of people came out, and they're like, yeah, that's what it is. Because it's the only thing that made sense, even though they didn't exactly mention it in the movie. It had to have been. Because there's no reason why a dinosaur that small would bite you, and then you're acting as though you're paralyzed. And they do showcase that here in this episode. It's really interesting that after they bite her, she's like, oh my god, my leg, I can't move, and she starts getting all hysterical as they come after her. They're basically replaying what happened in the Lost World Jurassic Park, and the more bites that this woman gets is the more venom is injected into her body. Again, I don't know why they decided to just target her. I understand why the compies probably targeted Dieter because, well, he was mean to them. So it is what it is, you know? Kenji gives Dodson his bag and says, I'm forever in your debt. Bison's entire prospectus is in there, and it would fetch a fortune in the black market. So, like, why are you carrying it around with you in the freaking outback where there are dinosaurs? Like, that's the worst thing you could have on you in a place like this when you don't have added security. Just saying. Not really smart.
You know you're always a winner.
Like, legit, this is the first time we ever see Sammy and Yaz making these faces. Like, I understand what a lot of you were saying. It just came out of freaking nowhere. Kind of like the Kenji and Brooklyn situation. But at least with them, it was a little bit more transition-ish. This was just like, we're really great friends, and now we want to bang. And it's like, dude, lead up. Buy me dinner. Like, what is going on? Jesus Christ. I mean, seriously. I more so, honestly, could see Ben and Darius being a thing than Sammy and Yaz. I think they deserved a little bit more of a lead up to it if they were going to do that. And I do get where a lot of people are coming from because they're like, it feels as though they're kind of mocking LGBT people because, oh, it's like, oh, well, they're gay. See, you're happy now, right? Like, if they wrote straight romances like that, the way that they wrote these guys in, people wouldn't be watching those movies. People would be like, what the shit is this? It doesn't make any sense. Like, it can still be fantasy, but it still has to make sense. I mean, this is like Twilight levels of unexpectedness, you know? And even with Twilight, I can't believe I'm defending Twilight here, but there's a reason, you know? Edward's a freaking vampire, and they can put spells on people. Like, he did say, everything about himself invites you in and makes you attracted to him, so what is it? Yaz got some secret sparkly eyes and makes Sammy all of a sudden see her as more than that. It just made no sense. But anyway, this is around the time where the glow in their eyes just start happening, and we know where it's going. Kenji's looking up at the same night sky as his friends, and he tells Toro to get some sleep, and he puts him to lie down. At least. The poor thing's legs are probably aching. So when Dr. Khan, I keep calling him Dr. Khan, I don't know if he's a doctor or not, but when Khan comes out, Kenji's dad is like, you know, son, Dodson was pretty impressed with you today. And he only seems to ever like him if he does exactly what he likes. And I feel for Kenji so hard right here. I feel for him so hard because I went through that with my mom. It's like, your parents love you. You believe that, okay, on a level of when it comes to parents, like, you being an extension of them, they love you by default. You know what I'm saying? But like anything past that, if it's like, you don't do exactly the things I do, the way I do them, you're not a perfectionist, and oh my god, you left a spot on the counter that you can only see if you sit at a certain angle, so you didn't clean the entire kitchen properly. Like, after a while, it's like, okay, so you're always mad at me. I am the worst disappointment. I make you feel like you want to die and all of that. And it's like this whiplash feeling that we're seeing here with Kenji's father. On one hand, he's happy with Kenji when Kenji does exactly what he wants, the way that he wants it done. Great. And then Kenji messes up, or dare I say, be human, and all of a sudden it's like, you're such a disappointment, why did I have you? Like, he doesn't actually say those things to Kenji, but it's heavily implied. It's like he's the biggest disappointment ever. It's like he can't love Kenji for just being Kenji. He has to always be perfect, or be exactly as he wants. And I would probably gather, just from my experience and what I know about, like, my family and stuff, on the maternal side, it's possible that Kenji's father's father probably treated him the same way. He probably was neglected and he had to be perfect. And anybody else who wasn't perfect the way his father wanted him to be perfect is seen as disgusting to him, or makes him feel as though he can't be around that person, or he has to always be hard on them. It's very sad. And I think that I'm projecting a lot because I can relate to that very heavily because I went through that, and it just makes me feel so bad for Kenji. And that's part of the reason why I freaking hate his friends sometimes, man. Like, really? Like, none of you had that situation where someone made you feel like that? Didn't have to be your parents? The fact that they knew Kenji, yeah, they only knew him for a few months. He knew his father his whole life, sort of. And you don't factor that in, that it's his freaking dad. Kenji must feel so alone. I don't know. They're like, oh, Kenji's so bad, and he did this and he did that. But you also turned on him at the drop of a hat. You gave up on him, but you didn't do that for each other. You stuck with each other, but you gave up on Kenji immediately. It just seems, I don't know. So that was the end of episode 6. Kenji's friends all want the dinosaurs to be safe for when Khan comes back. So they have an idea to make the watering hole bigger. Sammy will stay back with Brooke, and the others will go off and do whatever. And then we start getting the whole thing that we got with Kenji and Brooke, where they're now focusing so freaking heavy on Sammy and YAZ.
Sammy! I'll miss you. Oh, not if I miss you first!
Oh no. Oh my god. Have you ever had a situation where you, like, get older and you're not in school anymore, and then you look back at certain situations, the way that people acted with you and the things they used to do, and you're like, huh. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know that the girl that I was friends with at the time, she used to do the same shit like this. And she would also squeeze my tits, but it was a joke. Like, it was she'd be like, beep, 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 and she'd squeeze my tits. And then get mad whenever my boyfriend was around. And it just dawned on me just now that she probably liked me. That would explain a lot. That would explain a lot. Wow. 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 Okay. Well, yeah, INFPs are late when it comes to that kind of stuff. Anyway, I love watching Big Edie and Little Edie play with each other. It's so cute. Darius has to distract them so that Sammy can do her job with the watering hole. Brooklyn basically leaves Sammy on her own because she doesn't want her shoes to get dirty. So she goes with Darius. So Brooklyn's like, wait up, Darius, I believe in you, Team Sammy. Is no one gonna talk about how freaking selfish Brooke is? Is no one gonna talk about the fact that she left Sammy alone in an area where dinosaurs are roaming, where there are velociraptors? You know what I mean? But she now thinks that Kenji is evil. Can we talk about how Kenji would never do something like that? That he would never leave Brooke or Sammy alone by themselves outside in the wilderness on an island where dinosaurs are roaming and always trying to eat people, leaving her alone with nobody to watch her back? No one's gonna address that? Okay, just kidding. Ben and Yaz get the hybrid babies from the Arctic. They get Pierce, and they get Firecracker, who's a little bit shy. Ben and Yaz basically kind of connect with each other and say, hey, remember how introverted we were when we first came here? And, you know, Ben was like, it's a good thing I had Bumpy and you had Sammy. And then Yaz says, well, did you ever think that you wanted to be more than friends? And here's the answer that everybody probably wanted, because everyone had this long-standing thing that Bumpy wanted to bump his dinosaur. I don't know where people were getting that from. I never got that from that. It's freaking gross. Like, that's his child? You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's a place for all that, and it's called hentai, but this is not it.
But have you ever thought that maybe you wanted to be more than best friends?
Yes. Bumpy's a dinosaur? I just don't think it would work.
Right.
You got me thinking about it! But in all seriousness, then he gets it and he's like, oh, you're talking about you and Sammy. Oh, I get it. Okay. And she goes off and starts telling him because she can't tell Sammy how she feels because she likes Sammy. So it would be pretty awkward. A whole bunch of action happens with the dinosaurs. Sammy gets the water going to fill up the watering hole. And Ben gives Yaz some cool friend advice. This is really about people connecting with each other. It's really about Yaz talking about her feelings and them trying to figure out how they're going to keep the dinosaurs safe. That's really what it's all about. The whole idea why they wanted to do the watering hole thing in the first place is because if dinosaurs are by water, it naturally makes them not want to fight with each other. I mean, yeah, I guess there's some unspoken rule about that, but it's a little bit silly because in the show, they show the dinosaurs drinking water for hours on end. Just like, oh, I'm gonna be by the water and stay by there forever. Just conveniently enough until Khan comes back, which doesn't make any sense, but for the sake of the story, the dinosaurs stay exactly where they want them to stay, and they don't try to eat each other. None of the dinosaurs are like, wow, I filled up on water now. There's a quick little snack over there that I can eat. Let me just eat that. It's possible that they feel that way because when they drink a lot of water, they don't feel hungry, but still. Can we just talk also about how the friends really risked this? Because what if it didn't work? Then Yaz does this cringy thing about, oh, I know why Firecracker was introverted. I get her now. She needs to do things on her own terms at her own pace. Duh! You've been doing that since the show started. In episode 8, Khan and Kenji come back, and Khan is like, why are you changed back into that? Into the clothes you were wearing before? And Kenji's like, well, it's easier to move around like this, so. It's not like he's gonna please his dad regardless of what he's wearing anyway, so might as well be comfortable, right? Dodson says, look, I want this in 2 weeks. You did a lot for me, and I'm gonna give you way more money because, you know, out of debt for you saving my bag, but I want it in 2 weeks, which is like, you're not being generous then. You're just telling me you need it sooner for more money, which is what it would cost anyway, so miss me with that. We get a nice little story about the Parasaurolophus protecting their elders, and honestly, that part was really endearing. I think it's like one of their mothers or something, and I love how they show the Parasaurolophus in this because every time else they've shown them in the Jurassic Park franchise, they always show them as being these mindless creatures that are dumb, but they actually use their smarts to distract the predator and to keep one of their members safe. Brand is still looking for his little brother. Kenji steals his dad's keys after he discovers something fishy about one of the containers. When he opens it, he finds out that his dad, what is this, a car commercial? Oh my god, you see this Gran Turismo or something? Doesn't that look like the opening of Gran Turismo with the whole blurring effect and the panning and tilting of the cars coming into focus with different angles? It just reminds me of that. It's so hilarious. But yes, this bumpy showcase with this lovely interior. But in all seriousness, he finds out that Bumpy is being controlled, and even though the father said, I wouldn't take this one, he disregarded what Kenji said and took her anyway. Kenji is heartbroken, and he's like, why? Why would my dad do this?
He's an asshole.
Sorry, by the way, they were still on the island, they were still in Isla Nublar, and May is like, I don't want to do this anymore, I'm gonna take out these things for the chips and the dinosaur DNA and whatnot. She had become so disheartened, and I like how we get that character development of May, because she loved dinosaurs. Kenji noticed that she wasn't feeling happy and asked her about it. And she says that, well, when I wanted to do this, I wanted to do something wondrous and special, and I no longer enjoy it. Now that there are people like your father in control and running things, it's no longer enjoyable for me. I'll just go back and work with fish. And Kenji knows it's not what she wants to really do. She kind of helps him find himself, and he kind of helps her remember who she is. And I like that whole dynamic between the both of them. He gives her time to escape, since everyone's looking for her. Kenji tells his dad, look, you don't want to ruin your thing with Dodson because you're hung up on one scientist, right? Kenji knows exactly how to play to his father's weaknesses, and his father likes everything to do with business. As long as it's not costing him money, he's fine. So Kenji does that. Then they finally leave Isla Nublar to go back to the other island. Brand and the counselors are together, and they're feeling kind of hopeless. Dave said, look, maybe Brand is right. Maybe the kids aren't here. Maybe we should just pack it in. If anybody was alive on here, any other humans, we would have seen them by now.
On this island, we would have found them by now.
You sure about that?
Are you sure about that?
In episode 9, we see Yaz running. She says she had forgotten how good it feels to just run without anything chasing you. I know how you feel. It feels amazing to run. Just be careful, because if you haven't done it for a while, you do it without warming up, you can like pop something. Whew, learned my lesson. I was like, look at that, I haven't run track for a while. Let me go back into running. Oh dear, that muscle's starting to feel a little bit funny. Let me run on it harder. During this episode, Yaz tries to take every opportunity to tell Sammy how she feels, and they're always interrupted. Brooklyn starts blocking everyone again. Then something is wrong. Like I said, all of this just started coming out of left field. Oh my god, I love it. Like, okay, you guys were like really good friends like a moment ago, and now you're doing the whole Twilight thing. Come on, give me a break. Fricking Edward Cullen over here with fricking Belle. That problem they had before with the system failing is happening again. Something is wrong. When they go down to the tunnels, they smell that horrible smell, and they find the root of the problem. Brooklyn says the drill is out of alignment, and the whole core is overheating. It's also releasing noxious gas from the pipes. That's when the Dilophosaurus attacks them again. Oh no! Whatever that gas is, it knocked the poor thing out. But they can't leave the Dilophosaurus to die. And I can't blame them. Like, I mean, it was trying to kill you. But at the same time, I wouldn't be able to leave it to die either. However, I would have been a little smarter. Guess who would have been taking off her pants to wrap them around that thing's mouth in case it came back awake? Brooklyn and Darius decide to go in and hold their breath, or at least breathe through a rag, to try and get things working, since Brooklyn is the hacker. Unfortunately, Brooklyn doesn't come back at her checkpoint to come and take a breath. Darius has to go back in and save her. This is the opportunity that Yaz takes to talk to Sammy. Unfortunately, just as she's telling her that, the Dilophosaurus wakes up. I really do like this scene because the poor thing is trapped in there, is probably as scared of them as they are of it, and it's cornered, and it's, can you imagine being cornered in that little close space and the elevator's going up so freaking slowly? I love it. It's great. Darius rescues Brooke, and we actually get to see Darius being human for once. He says he doesn't feel like a hero because he feels like he's gonna trap his best friend. We get to see him actually be human. He says, what if he's changing all the life or death situation, the choices between this bad thing or this even worse thing? But if I'm no better than Khan? And it's so interesting to see him actually do this, because before I'm just like, ew, the disregard for human life on your end is just so staggering to me. And Darius has a habit of burying his feelings in work and not addressing them and just being angry and not saying anything and closing off. However, I know most people, if you're best friends with someone, you would actually talk to them about it, but I know the situations are a little bit different. I just need that same energy that you gave everybody else, Darius, for you to give it to Kenji. Brooke says she'll follow him anywhere. And when they all get out in the clearing, Ben gives Sammy and Yaz some space. And of course, yep, we finally get it. Thank you for finally just letting it out there. Sammy and Yaz are officially a couple.
Like, hard. Real hard.
What did you say?
I've been wanting to hear you say that since I don't even know when.
Wait a minute. What are you talking about? When? Knowing Sammy's personality, she would have been the first one to go up and be like, Yaz, so I think you're kind of cute. You know, there would have been like a little bit more obviousness with her, or maybe not, I don't know. Just didn't even get that look in her eye until very, very recently. So yeah, I see where people are coming from, where they just didn't, like, let's just shove it in. The series is almost over. God damn it, people want this, let it go. So anyway, Kenji and Connor back. And of course, once again, they see him controlling Toro. And what's worse is Ben hears Bumpy, and he hasn't seen Bumpy for a while, and he sees her being controlled. And he knows Kenji is with these people now, so he automatically blames it on Kenji. Honestly, from Ben's perspective, I would understand why he's really angry, because if I had a friend, yes, I would be okay with, not okay with what they were doing, but understand the plight that they're in, up until the point where they take my baby that I raised from birth and then they're using them. Even though I know logically it's probably not their fault, I would still be a little bit angry with them because of that, because now that's my baby we're talking about. Anyways, I still love the show. I think it's amazing. I know I've already watched it a long time ago. I finished it, but I did say I was going to go play by play, and we're going to cover the last 3 episodes after this video, so stay tuned, guys. What is your favorite part about this series? Oh my god, they did so much right. Of course, it had its issues. I'm completely aware of that, but the show is so good, and I think they did such a great job with the human characters and making it fit within the Jurassic Park universe. Thank you, Camp Cretaceous, for doing this. You're welcome. I mean, you're not whatever. Thanks so much for watching. This has been Ultiori. You ask, we answer.